Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Battlefield expansion for Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game. I'm going to clarify this in my next video, or probably the next few videos as I'm playing. But I actually had to go online and look for what the designers said about diagonal movement, and even though the rulebook does not state that diagonal movement is not possible, the designers have said yes, the intention is to match combat, which is only in the orthogonal movements. If you are interested in this expansion, keep in mind this disclaimer, that it is an expansion, and the core game of Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game, and 2 sets of faction miniatures are required to play. So you do need the miniatures for this. The components that should be included in your battle box are as follows. First, a rulebook. It comes with 2 player aids, 1 battle board, 10 battlefield tokens, some of which are double-sided, 1 initiative token, 50 adventure cards, 10 positive morale cards, and 10 negative morale cards. For setting up in adventure mode, you'll be following these steps and prepare the required elements from the core game. The first is the players will select their hero card. The players will take their town boards. They will take their 7 double-sided unit cards. You will take your 7 unit models, which in this case my Necropolis and Castle models come in this box because I did the Kickstarter. So they will be in here, and I'll show them in just a second. For Castle, we have the Halberdiers, the Marksman, the Griffin, the Crusader, the Zealot, the Champion, and the Archangel. Hold on a second. A little bigger than the Heroscape scale, but it would work. For the Necropolis, we have Skeletons, Zombies, Wraith, Vampire, Lich, Dread Knight, and Ghost Dragon. The players will assemble their 3 hero-specific specialty cards, their hero-specific ability card, which is Wisdom for Rion, Sorcery for Sandro, and you will assemble your 20 faction cubes of your faction's color. You will prepare the artifact, spell, and ability decks normally. However, you will remove diplomacy and logistics from the ability deck. Then you'll segregate your resources, which would be money, resources, and valuables, and your paralysis and defense tokens, and your wound tokens into separate piles. Prepare all of your attack, resource, and treasure dice. Then, you'll put a black cube on the first space of the round tracker. Each player will place one of their faction cubes on the Roman numeral 1 on their hero card. Each player will start with 15 gold, 3 regular resources, and 1 valuable. You will set your income to 10 gold, 0 resources, and 0 valuables. You'll then prepare your specific deck of Might and Magic, which I'll go over again really quick. The first step of which is preparing these cards up here. So Rion would start with 1 attack, 0 defense, 2 power, and 2 knowledge cards. If your main hero is a hero of might, which would be a horned helm, you would add 1 copy of the spell Magic Arrow to your deck. But Rion is a hero of magic, so he gets 2 copies of the spell Magic Arrow. Then you would add your hero's ability to your deck, which in this case is Wisdom for Rion, and you would also get your level 1 specialty, and that would go into your deck. You shuffle that, place it face down next to your hero, and now your deck is ready for the game. Place the battlefield board between both players. You'll then prepare the adventure deck, as well as the positive and negative morale decks. You will have to set aside your obstacle and initiative tokens. Both players will roll 2 resource dice, and the one with the highest result is the first player. The Skirmish mode has some slightly different rules for setup, but it'll still follow a lot of the basic same steps. The first being, both players will take one of the following factions and take the following: their hero card, their 7 double-sided unit cards, their 7 unit models, their 3 hero-specific ability cards. I'm sorry, specialty cards, not ability. Hero-specific specialty cards. Then their hero-specific ability card, which is listed on your hero's sheet. And you will take your faction's cubes. You'll prepare the artifact, spell, and ability cards as normal, but removing diplomacy and logistics from the ability deck. Segregate your damage and paralysis defense tokens into 2 piles within reach of both players. Prepare your attack and resource dice. Place one of your faction cubes in the number 1 slot on the level marker for your hero on their hero card. And real quickly again, you'll prepare your Might and Magic deck at the start of the game, which in Sandro's case would be 1 attack card, 2 knowledge cards, and 2 power cards. And he would have a sorcery card. You'd prepare his level 1 ability card, which would be the Cloak of the Undead King. And then you'd prepare his spells, which in this case, because he's a magic user, he'd have 2 magic arrow. If he was the might hero, it would be 1 magic arrow. Shuffle that up, place it face down next to your hero, and you're ready to use that deck. You'll place the battlefield between both players, you'll prepare the positive and negative morale decks, and you'll prepare your obstacle and initiative tokens, and then both players will roll 2 resource die. Whoever has the higher result goes first. In the Adventure and Skirmish modes, you'll use the 2 morale decks instead of the tokens from the core game. Shuffle them separately and place them near the round tracker. This would be the breakdown of the card. We have the name up top, the effect in the middle, and the battlefield symbol. The effect is resolved when indicated and the condition is met, and the battlefield symbol is to be removed or ignore the card with this symbol during the regular game. Every time you gain a positive morale, discard 1 negative morale card if you have any. Otherwise, you'll search 2 from the positive morale deck, and then you'll place your newly gained card face up near your hero and put the remaining cards at the bottom of the positive morale deck. So when you search 2, you'll be able to pick 1. The other one would go to the bottom of the deck. During an adventure or skirmish, you can have up to 2 positive morale cards simultaneously. You can use these cards at any moment to resolve their effect. Once you resolve a positive morale card, put it at the bottom of the positive morale deck. If you gain a negative morale card, first you have to discard a positive morale token for every negative morale token card you must take. If you need to draw negative morale token cards and have no positive morale cards to discard, draw them and place them face up beside your hero. You will resolve them when the situation indicated by the card occurs. Once you resolve a negative morale card, put it at the bottom of the negative morale deck. There is no limit to the number of negative morale cards you may have. Adventure mode is a competitive mode for 2 players, 1 versus 1, in which you will use adventure cards to upgrade your decks, gain resources, upgrade armies, and much more. You can also control up to 7 units. If you either have or draw a card, including a hero specialty card, that gives resources or movement or reduces costs, instead of putting it into your deck, place it near your hero card. You can single use it and then remove it from play. During an adventure, you gain expert level like the core game, but they are single use. At the start of combat board, your expert limit is renewed. And you'll choose a map, size, and game length. Small, the adventure will go to the 9th round. Medium, the adventure ends with the 13th round. And large, the adventure will end with the 16th round. At the start of each round, the starting player draws 3 adventure cards and keeps 1 of them, and passes the remaining 2 to the enemy player, who keeps 1 of the cards and discards the other. Each player resolves their chosen card or saves it on their hero card for later. If both players choose to resolve a card, the player who started the round resolves their card first. Place resolve cards near your hero card, then the round will end. Take note that during every round in the adventure mode, you can also use your town actions just as you would in a regular game. The odd-numbered rounds are going to be started by the first player, and the even-number rounds will be started by the second player. After drawing the cards, but before making your choice, you can use the movement effect from one of the previously set-aside cards to shuffle any number of the cards you have just drawn back to the adventure deck and draw that many cards. Although in this game mode your hero does not have any movement as such, you can still use the movement effect from some cards this way. Note that each player can save up to one card for later use. Place this card face down on your hero card. This card can be replaced with another adventure card, discarded, or played. In the last round, the players do not draw cards from the adventure deck. They can still play their saved card or spend resources to upgrade buildings or armies. After the last round, perform battlefield combat. The round tracker can show you which type of round it is, but during the Astrologers round, the top are going to be resources, the bottom row would be Astrologers, so every even-numbered round is going to be Astrologers. You'll choose one of the following instead of playing an Astrologer's Proclaim card. You can increase your preferred income by 1 tier, or you could roll the resource die, and based on your result, you will increase that income for that resource by 1 tier, and then gain the basic income for that resource, which is 5 for gold, 2 for regular resources, and 1 for valuables. And just a quick note, I went through the example, but when you increase by 1 tier, you'll move it just to the next segment as if you were claiming a mine. Every adventure card belongs to one of the following types, either combat or event. Let's break down the event type card here. We have its name, its type, its effect, and then on the combat cards we have again the name, the type, the combat power, the battle reward, and the basic reward. And for the sake of this video, to resolve combat, we'll go to the segment Combat During Adventure, and if you want to see how to resolve an event, just go to the section Event During Adventure. Choose one of the available combat powers from the card. I will choose 10 to gain 8 resources, 2 valuables, and 1 experience. So then you'll select 2 of your units. In this case, I'll choose my Ghost Dragons and Dread Knights, which are upgraded to the pack side. So that would be 13. Then you'll roll 2 attack dice. So that'd be 14 back down to 13. So 13, I exceed the 10 that's required. If your power total is equal to or greater than the power value of the battle you have chosen, take the basic reward and the battle reward for this combat. So that would be the basic reward down here, and then my battle reward for completing it. If your total power is lower than the combat's power value, take the basic reward, and then you'll take a paralysis token on one of your units that took part in the combat. This unit is stunned. If a stunned unit is chosen for combat, do not add its attack value to your power, then remove the paralysis token from the unit. Events are pretty simple. You just resolve the effect on the chosen adventure card, search 2 the artifact deck twice, then draw 2 negative morale cards. Note that each effect on the obelisk card grows stronger with each obelisk played. To achieve victory, one of the players must defeat all units deployed by the other player during a battlefield combat. In Adventure Mode, battlefield combat is triggered at the end of the last round, while in Skirmish Mode it starts when the deck is ready. Note that you would remove all paralysis tokens placed on your units during the adventure rounds. And again, on a small adventure mode, that would be 9. On a medium, it would be 13. And on a large, it would be at the end of the 16th round. This step is only performed in adventure or skirmish modes. You draw cards from your Might and Magic deck up to your hand limit. If you'd like, that would be page 12 in the core rulebook, or check out one of the other videos that teaches you how to play the game and assembling your deck of Might and Magic, or the very beginning of this video. Anyway, Sandro's hand limit would be 6 in this case, so you draw 6 cards. Obstacle tokens are double-sided and are divided into 3 types: the effect, the obstacle, and the wall/gate. These tokens replace and work as combat obstacles from the core game, which would be page 30 of the core game rulebook. Note that all unit models also count as obstacles. I am an obstacle. Take note that to mark the effect of the Firewall spell, place the Firewall effect obstacle on an empty hex and place the Firewall spell card next to the battlefield as a board reminder. And just a quick note, because I'm kind of going through these as I open them up and play with them, the core game, I do believe, does not have the Firewall spell. I believe that comes in an expansion, because I flipped through these cards a lot of times, and the only thing I found was Fire Shield or Fireball. So, you may want to check which expansion comes with the Firewall spell if you're dead set on getting it. This darker area of the board is going to be a player's deployment zone, so obstacles, when placed, cannot go into the deployment zone, and they would also need to be enough spaces away so as not to block off some movement out of the deployment zone. Units also can't be deployed outside the deployment zone. Starting from the first player, the players will take turns placing their units on the battlefield. When the last unit is placed, combat will begin. Note that the first player selects a deployment zone, denoted by the darker hexes on each side of the battlefield, by placing their unit, and the other player places their units in a deployment zone on the opposite side of the battlefield. That is not them. There you go. One of the first changes is to unit movement. Each unit's movement is equal to its initiative. A unit of initiative 8 can move up to 8 hexes. Once a unit's activation ends, mark it with your faction cube. The cubes are removed at the start of the next round. So this Wraith can move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ranged units. These units can either move or attack and suffer a combat penalty when attacking an adjacent unit or a unit that is 8 or more hexes away from them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That marksman would be well within range, no penalty. Regarding your deck of Might and Magic, the limit of expert level cards, which is the crown, you can play is 1 per combat round, not for the whole combat. At the end of the combat round, each player draws 2 cards from their deck, and additionally they recover 1 expert point up to their hero's limit. Regarding the initiative token. At the start of combat, the first player gains the initiative token. Use it to break any initiative ties of opposing units. The player with the token will always act first. Once all units with that initiative activate, pass the initiative token to the other player. Note that the rest of the combat rules from the core game remain unchanged. For skirmish mode, you'll skip the adventure part and instead use one of the pre-made templates to jump straight into battle. You will choose one of the following scenarios and follow its instructions. First off would be large. You'll set your hero to level 7. You'll create your starter deck, and you'll modify it in the following way. You will add all of your hero's specialty cards. You'll draw 6 random ability cards, remove 2 of them, and add the remaining cards to your Might and Magic deck. You'll draw 4 random artifact cards, remove 1 of them, and add the remaining cards to your Might and Magic deck. And when it comes to spells, you'll draw 3 random spell cards for a Might hero, or 5 spell cards for a Magic hero, and add them to your deck of Might and Magic. For a medium game, you'll add first level and fourth level hero ability cards. You'll draw 4 random ability cards, remove 1 of them, and add the remaining cards to your deck of Might and Magic. You'll draw 3 random artifact cards, remove 1, and add the remaining to your deck of Might and Magic. And you would draw 2 random spell cards for a Might hero, or 4 spell cards for a Magic hero, and add them to your deck of Might and Magic. Then you'd shuffle your deck, flip all of your Bronze Tier and Silver Tier unit cards to the pack side on the Battlefield Combat section. Which, pretty self-explanatory, double-sided cards, Silver Tier, pack side. And I'm sorry, on a medium, your hero level would start at 5. You'd create your starter deck as normal, with the cards up here, same with a large game. And for short, you would start your hero at level 3, you'd create your starter deck, and modify it in the following way. You'd only add your level 1 hero special card. You would draw 3 random ability cards, remove 1 of them, and add the remaining cards to your deck. Draw 2 random artifact cards, remove 1 of them, and add the remaining card to your deck. And for spells, it would be 1 random spell for a Might hero, or 2 random spells for a Magic hero, and add them to your deck. Then you'll shuffle your deck, and you will flip all of your Bronze Tier and Silver Tier units to the few side and follow rules on the Battlefield Combat section. So this is the few side, and this is the pack side. And just like the other way, in Adventure Mode, to achieve victory, one player must defeat all units deployed by the other player during Battlefield Combat. And here's how it'll work in the regular game. With the following rules, you can use this expansion in regular games. It is recommended that using the Battlefield Combat board only is player versus player combat. If you decide to use it in combat with neutral units, ignore the round limit. Do not spend movement points to gain additional combat rounds. Be aware, however, that this may significantly extend playtime. Obstacle tokens are double-sided and divided into 3 types. There is Effect, Obstacle, and Wall/Gate. These tokens replace and work as combat obstacles from the core game. That would be page 30 of the core game rulebook. Circular is in effect. Hex, with no wall or gate, is just an obstacle, and then there's wall gate. And note, to mark the effect of the Firewall spell, place the Firewall effect obstacle on an empty hex and place the Firewall spell card next to the battlefield as a reminder. Starting from the attacking player, both players take turns placing their chosen obstacles on the battlefield board. No obstacle can be adjacent to another obstacle or to any player's deployment zone. Note that a deployment zone is the darker areas where players will place their units on the battlefield. Starting with the attacking player, players will take turns placing their units on the battlefield. When the last unit is placed, that is when combat will begin. Under unit movement, each unit's movement is equal to its initiative. A unit with initiative 5 could move up to 5 spaces. Once a unit's activation ends, mark it with your faction cube. The cubes are removed at the start of the next round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you'd mark it, and then we'll just say this one goes up to this many spaces, and we mark it, and then the round ends. New round. Although I believe the champion has higher initiative, this was just an example. A ranged unit can either move or attack and suffer a combat penalty when attacking an adjacent unit or a unit that is more than 8 hexes away from them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It would suffer a penalty, but that lich could shoot that champion. Now, if he moved and the champion doesn't get to him, which is very likely, so instead we'll just use this guy and say he's here. There'd be no penalty because he's within 8 hexes. However, if the lich is here, there would be a penalty because it's attacking adjacent units. Remember that that penalty is you take 2 attack die and have to take the lower result. At the start of combat, the attacking player gains the initiative token. Use it to break any initiative ties of the opposing units. The player with the token will always act first. Once all units with the initiative activate, pass the initiative token to the other player. Note that the rest of combat rules from the core game will remain unchanged. And for sieges, during siege setup, only walls and gate obstacle tokens are placed on the battlefield board. That would be one wall, the gate, and another wall and another wall. The defender's units can move through the gate as if it were an empty hex. Note that just as in the core game, to destroy a wall or gate, one of your units must attack it from an adjacent hex. Destroyed elements are removed from the battlefield board. And since this is the regular game mode, this is where these cards would be ignored. They would be in Skirmish and Adventure mode, so you'd take them out if you're playing the regular game. And you can use the decks in regular games instead of tokens. Follow the morale deck rules with one exception. Every time you gain a positive morale or a negative morale, draw one card from the corresponding deck. If at any point during the game you must draw from either of the morale decks while it is empty, proceed according to the core game rules. And just a quick refresher on that, the core game rules are, during the game, there will be varieties of instances and locations that may cause you to gain or lose morale. When you gain a positive morale, place the morale token near your deck of Might and Magic. You can only have one such positive morale token at a time. And you may use it at any point in the game, also during combat, to perform one of the following three actions. Draw a card from your Might and Magic deck. Discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards from your deck, or re-roll a die. Whenever a player's hero obtains a negative morale, that player must discard a positive morale token. If they have one, otherwise, they may take a negative morale token. A player may only have one such token at a time. If a hero should gain a negative morale token while they already have one, they discard all their cards at the end of their turn instead. Consequently, if a player whose main hero is affected by negative morale gains a positive morale token, instead of taking the positive morale token, you will discard the negative morale token. Note that the Necropolis ignores any morale effects. That is the rules for the Heroes of Might and Magic 3, the board game Battlefield expansion. Note that while on the battlefield, your units can actually move any of the direction that the hexes point, but when you're playing the regular game with the cards, they cannot move diagonally. I had to verify that on the internet through the developers and the designers of the game confirming it. Found it on a forum on Board Game Geek. So, I made some mistakes in my first quest, but from here on out, when I'm playing, I'm going to do it properly. It sounds like I will not be using the Battlefield expansion for solo play, though, as it is recommended for more people, actual humans. I suppose I could do it with AI, but yeah, I'm just going to follow the rules.